Fucking thing.
We're live now.
What's up, guys?
Hey guys, good to see everyone here. Touch me.
How's it going, everybody?
Not bad, not bad.
I'm doing well.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, welcome to the first attempt, which is bound to go horribly wrong. So please bear with us as we try to play video games for the first time.
I'll watch. Hold on, I gotta get ready, though. Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah, awesome. You got the tall boy.
The people want Thumb Bob back. Sorry.
Yeah. They got a taste, and they don't want to go back.
All right. So, what have you guys been up to, Bob? You been doing anything cool lately?
Nope. I'm not going first. You guys go first. What's everybody up to?
What I'm doing is I'm just here to hang out. I'm here to watch some good games being played. I love how Nick has got the small pane that the game will be playing in is about 1 inch. So we're really going to be seeing a lot of action-packed glory here today.
All right, we can change that. I can shrink you guys down to nothing. Here I go. Oh.
Why don't you just omit the round table logo and just put all of us horizontally across the bottom? People don't need. They know who we are, so they can actually see the video game being played. What is this? I mean, you trying to emulate the fucking idiosyncrasies of a Game Boy, you sick bastard?
All right, fine. Jeez Louise, man. Everyone's a critic. Get rid of that.
I'm not paying attention, so...
Please bear with us as we design a thing on the fly here. Oh, almost got it. There you go. Oh yeah, now we're looking great.
That's much better. See, that's good.
Yeah, it still looks terrible, but whatever.
Well, you know,
we're gonna roll with it.
I like it. I like it.
Adam Hunter, ex-cop. Hobby is bonsai.
You guys
His ability is bonsai.
There we go. All right, fine.
Fucking gel bars are killing me.
Jeez.
You know, it looked really good when we were like a square.
Yeah, Nick,
all the way at the bottom.
I will murder you.
It looked better before, Nick.
What are you gonna do?
No, actually, I like this. This looks pretty good.
Now, Nick, can you beat this game with only 3 lives, or do you have to dip into your continues?
That's a question about what difficulty I play it on.
You're gonna play on hardest because that's the only actual difficulty, right?
I'm not gonna play on hardest if I don't have a second player.
Alright. Well, fly your brother in.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Steve, can you tell me what game is more difficult, Streets of Rage or Holy Diver?
Oh God.
I haven't played Holy Diver.
I don't know. Well, define hard.
Well, I don't think we could really get onto that and get into that on YouTube, but
this is why we can't get super chat enabled.
Yeah.
So, Smokes Monster says if that's OBS, which it is, right-click on the Genesis window and change the scaling to point.
Filtering.
Yeah. Filter.
Goddamn bunch of fucking amateurs over here.
You gotta do point filtering.
Okay, I changed it. I don't think it looks any different, but...
It said point, doesn't it have to be an integer to look good?
Yeah, Nick, what is your bit rate right now? 500 kilobits?
Actually, it looks good on mine.
Yeah, I think the stream is healthy. It's
Looks like
2200.
Okay, it's pretty low, but we'll deal with it.
All right.
Holy Diver will have an easy mode. Well, not the version that Steve played.
Will it have a good mode?
Yeah. I tried to watch him, beat it, but it just wasn't working.
Yeah, I was doing pretty damn good.
You were. I mean, you were doing really good. And then it got boring.
All right, so the question is, do I go for hard and possibly not beat it?
Well, you always go for hard, but you always beat it, too.
Yeah, we'll see.
You can't beat it if it's not hard.
Yeah, we're not going hard.
That's right. The logic is sound.
Yeah.
I mean, let's not fuck around with this, okay? We're serious about winning.
I think if I'm gonna play hard, I think I gotta go Blaze.
I like to be the dude, Axel, because I feel like he's
terrible in this game. I hate it.
Of the three.
I think he's got the best balance, in my opinion. But
Like
whatever.
I could play Adam, but he's kind of hard to play with on single player because he's so slow. Like I will get wrecked by Claw Dude. But
yeah.
let's go with it. Let's go with it.
You do the.
I almost always play Blaze, so it's fun to do something new for once.
You know, I always take the when they do the claw thing. No, that's the boomerang guy. I just do the flying knee, and it just cancels out like a million boomerangs, and then you get down and you put it in him.
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, as long as you're like doing a jump kick, like the axe thrower. Talking about that guy.
Yeah. Oh, that guy. Yeah, not the boomerang guy, the axe thrower guy. The boomerang guy's the second boss. Or is he the first boss?
Oh, okay, you're talking about bosses. Yeah, Boomerang Dude is the first boss. Yeah, he's easy. I mean.
Yeah.
Man, I can't hear any of the.
It's the second boss that's a nightmare with Adam because you have to be fast. And you can't use any jump kicks on him either.
I can do the Streets of Rage sound effects, don't worry. Are you going to get the apple?
Yeah, you're a few seconds behind.
Oh, of course. I forgot. Dealing with ISD and technology.
Yeah. But we could talk about things that are not the game, you know, when we play. It'd be hard to talk about Streets of Rage for...
What was your... No, we can't. What was your first time... you know, my first experience with this game, and really a lot of the excellent Sega games, was in the mid-1990s. Probably 1995. For whatever reason, I had a Super Nintendo and all this stuff, right? But I had it in my heart that I wanted a Sega Genesis. And so for Christmas, I think of 95, I got a Sega Genesis that came with the pack-in game, the Sega 6-pack. And that game changed my life because not only did I get Streets of Rage, I got Sonic 1, Columns Hang On, Golden Axe, and Revenge of Shinobi. I never had a better Christmas.
It's a lot of great games.
I mean, I never had a better Christmas, period.
My family wasn't that wealthy. I got Sega Genesis for Christmas, and that was it. And it came with Sonic, and I played the hell out of that for a long time. And then this was the first game that I ever bought. I went to Sears, and then we went over to Toys R Us, and then it was better priced at Sears, so we went back to Sears and got it out of that little like glass case, a little video game section.
Is this the actual cartridge you bought at Sears?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Well, when I got my Genesis, this is like the 6-pack cartridge in the Genesis was like $80. And this was at the point to where I also got the 32X that year too, because the 32X was $19.99. So I got the 32X with Doom, which was the pack-in game for that, and I got the Genesis with the 6-pack. The best Christmas I ever had. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, it was just like a late introduction to a lot of these franchises, and it was a great introduction.
The other, I guess, Genesis game that had multiple ROMs was there was a Sonic one, wasn't there? Like, that had like a couple different Sonic games.
I don't remember. I know there's the Sonic Jam for Saturn.
Yeah, I think you're right, Steve. There was one that had Sonic 1 and 2 and Sonic Spinball, I think.
All in one cartridge?
I think so. I'm gonna check.
Yeah, like, I don't know, I find it fascinating, the multi-carts, because of course there's some really technical thing that interests me where that's when I learned that the reset button, they could change where the reset vector is. It's not a power on reset when you hit the reset button. And that's how they did like the X-Men thing where
The computer.
Yeah, you have to reset the computer, right?
Yeah, they can change the pointer for the reset interrupt.
Yeah.
I was so nervous the first time I beat that game and I had to hit reset. I was like, oh my god, I worked so hard. What if I ruin it?
Wonder, what?
You actually beat that game? Jesus.
I can't remember if I used Game Genie at one point. I think my cousins and I really just played the shit out of it, though.
This is X-Men you're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've used Game Genie to leap to the last level and I couldn't beat it. The game is so hard.
I wonder what people did with the Nomad. Is there a soft button reset for the Nomad? If you hit all the buttons, does it reset?
No.
So you're fucked, and there is no beating X-Men on the Nomad. That's odd.
Okay, so we got a question in the chat. Castlemania Games asks, what got you guys into engineering?
Being too poor to afford real shit. That's definitely what got me into it. Cousin Scott and I the first surround sound stereo we got, we took pieces of stuff we found at tag sales and junk stores and rewired them and had some ghetto ass stereo that we basically learned how to work on electronics because we couldn't afford the real shit, and that just kind of fascinated me from then on.
It's a good question. I don't know if I have a really, I don't know if I have a super definitive answer. What really got me into the discipline that I made a career out of was Counter-Strike 1.3.
Counter-Strike?
Sure did.
Want to explain?
Yeah, how so?
No, don't really want to talk about it.
Oh, it's one of those experiences.
Yeah. PTSD is real.
I was originally going to go to school for, or I should say I was admitted to University of Illinois for aerospace engineering. But then I remember very distinctly my computer science teacher in high school, Mr. Reber, showing us a chart of starting salaries for all the different engineering types, and aerospace was at the bottom, and I was like, fuck that. And then I switched to electrical because it was at the top.
That's pretty funny.
I remember as a kid, I would open up all of my video game consoles and the controllers, and I would clean them up or whatever. And then at one point, I got a screwdriver kit that had the game bit in it, so I was able to open the game cartridges. So I remember I opened up a Sonic 1 cartridge, and all I saw in there was this black thing with legs, and I was thinking to myself, how the hell is Sonic inside of this thing? And I was forever curious as to how it was done. So I think that was my first introduction to why I wanted to be in engineering.
Engineering, or just sort of the field of engineering, is very hobby-esque. It's one of those things where I don't think you could do it. I don't think you could really touch it unless you had a true innate passion for it. You know what I mean? It's something that is such a discipline that if you really weren't passionate about it, you would just not be doing it.
Ray, was the second thought you had after how would the Sonic fit into this thing? Was your second thought, man, I bet the voltage is very important for these things.
I knew you were going there. I love it.
It was, yeah. But Zach, you're right. I remember we had 2 starting classes in my engineering class. And there was about at least over 100 students in each. And by the time we graduated, we were only about 15. So I would definitely argue that out of those hundreds that started, there was only 15 or so that were truly passionate about the engineering.
And I've learned something else. Like I have, a bunch of obviously, I'm very popular and have a lot of friends. But like the engineers, like the people that, people who really love this stuff, you'll find, just like me, you'll find textbooks, and sort of you'll find university textbooks, among other things, from the 70s and 80s, scattered on all over their bookshelves in their homes. Like they just like me, come to my house. You would be amazed at the documentation that I have.
How many of those books have you actually read, or have you even learned how to read yet?
At least 90% of them. I just learned how to read courtesy of your mom. So stupid. God.
How does that work?
It was a fucking horrible comeback.
One of the things I hate about this boss in particular is they throw a ton of those small bad guys at you.
Just learn to read courtesy of your mom? What the fuck?
Not on your game tonight, huh, Zach?
No!
Oh, God. What a fool.
I just remembered what got me into like this stuff. I used to work at Best Buy with Nick was there too. This was like junior year, senior year of high school or something. And we had this we had a boss who we still talk to today. It kind of let us do whatever the hell we wanted to. And so I would like wire up like shit in weird ways and like come up with ways to add surround sound to all our surround sound rooms when they used to only have it in the center room because there was all these other side rooms that just had like stereo sound. And I don't know, I would just do like goofy crap like that, and then just being able to be put in that situation where I could just do all this goofy nonsense and just come up with stuff was kind of what got me into like wanting to make stuff.
Yeah, I think the whole growing up with that mentality of making whatever you have work, like really helped me in my career. Like from a little kid, like somebody, remember the old TVs where you'd actually have to screw down the 2 Y cables? So you have to like unscrew these things, go in. Like the first time one of those broke off and I figured out how to strip it without cutting myself, like twist the wires, wrap it around, like absolutely that from, you know, all the way up to like my favorite moment. I'm sorry if I told the story before. I'm sober now, so I don't remember maybe what I told when I was drunk, but I was in a room in Taiwan and we were designing like a thermal, a way to make a sealed fanless computer way before the iPad. And I'm around in a room surrounded by a bunch of people that were so much smarter than I will absolutely ever dream to be. But it just because my whole life I just had to, whatever was in front of me, I had to figure out the puzzle pieces on how to make it work. And I kind of was just like, hey, what if we do this? And everybody's like, no, that wouldn't work. Except one guy was like, keep going, keep going. So I did the whole presentation, and that's the idea that they used, was just one that I came up with because I just saw the whole big picture and then saw just, hey, this is what we have to work with. How can I make it work? So I love that. It came from, you know, that came from when I was 3 years old.
It came from your butt.
I screwed this up. I was paying too much attention to trying to mix the audio better, and took some life.
Yeah, disappointed in you.
Well, at least Renee's got it under control where he's you can't beat it without potato chips, right?
Yeah, that's right. I forgot the
Actually,
chips.
He's got the couch and the potato chips.
These are chickpeas, actually. Sorry if I'm chewing loudly. I'll move away from the microphone when I'm doing that.
Actually, no, I find it kind of enchanting.
Ugh. What is that stuff on YouTube now? ADSM or something? It's just videos of people making mouth noises.
ASMR. Get it right.
ASMR. Oh my god, my little brother played that for me last time he was over, and it sent me into like an acid flashback. I was like, turn it off!
Yeah, it's
I
a weird.
lost my shit.
It's a weird fetish that people will pay money for.
Yeah, I don't want any of that. Like, ugh. Yeah, no, that's not for me. Like,
Fucked up. I already can't stand people who chew loudly.
It's not chewing loudly that turbs me as much as I find people who breathe really emphatically when they eat. That kills me. Let me give you an example. It's been a long day. It's been a long day.
I usually eat too fast that there's no time to breathe, so get it over with.
I'm gonna try something here.
I'm reminded of Homer eats like a pig. No, pigs tend to chew. I'd say he eats more like a duck.
I was thinking the same thing.
He just gums it. He just gums his food to death.
Yeah. So as everyone can tell, I really like The Simpsons. I have this Better Call Huts poster.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
Money down.
Well, this bar association logo shouldn't be here either. He's my favorite character. Lionel Hutz is my favorite character.
It was
Michael's workshop wants to know if Bob's retiring or he just retarded.
I don't think you're allowed to say the R word anymore.
That's
Retired?
probably best.
Retired? You can't say that?
That's the best question we've ever gotten.
Do you guys ever watch Trailer Park Boys?
Of course.
I've seen the first season.
I've seen almost every one. Well, that's retarded. You're not allowed to say that anymore. Fine, that's detarded. That's the same thing.
Not working.
Oh man,
So
I'm
we
really
gonna-
blowing this.
Are we gonna talk tech at all, or are we just gonna watch Nick lose at this game?
Probably just
We
gonna
can-
watch me lose.
Whatever you want. I don't care.
I had somebody threaten to sue me for not selling them an amp a while back. That one still makes me smile when I think about
Oh,
it.
did anything ever come of that, Bob?
Of course not. No, it was that awesome amp I was selling for a while, and every person that messaged me about it was either they wanted to send their courier service to pick it up and then bring me a check. Yeah, right. No one's dumb enough. No one's dumb enough for that.
Your guitar amp,
Was this
right?
on like
Yeah.
Craigslist or something?
Craigslist, OfferUp, eBay, all of these. And then this one on eBay, the guy wanted me to drive an hour to meet him, which is fine, but he didn't want to win the auction before doing that. So that's the other scam I got all the time, where people wanted to not buy it on eBay. So when I say buy it, I don't mean pay with PayPal. I mean just like win the auction, because that's technically a binding contract. And then they wanted to show up and be like, well, I'm already here, so why don't I give you $500? Like, no, it's a $2,000 amp. I'm asking $1,000. Fuck off. So he kept pulling one of those, and I was like, you know what? I don't have time for this anymore. I'm really tired of these scammers. Please stop instant messaging me about this. Like, I'm not going to sell the amp to you. And he lost his shit, and I kept fucking with him. And then he threatened to sue me for calling him a scammer. Tried to have me written up for defamation on eBay or something. And then he filed a complaint with eBay and said that I tried to get him to sell it off of eBay.
All those messages are in their servers.
Yeah,
and they can
somehow
look
we're
them up.
not realizing that eBay's customer service can read all of the messages he sent. And then the last message he said was, I'll be contacting my lawyer by the end of the day. You messed with the wrong person. And by the way, I just got off the phone with an eBay manager who couldn't believe the way you spoke to me.
Wait, you said
That's
something
their
about.
job. That's their job. Their job is to be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, yes, we'll make this right. That's what they're paid to do. It still makes me laugh. I'm sorry that was a stupid story. But yeah, somebody tried to sue me for not selling them an amp and not letting myself get scammed. That really cracked me up. I really
So
wish
wait,
you
you said written up. What is this, high school?
Yeah,
I don't
you could
understand.
actually do that on eBay. You could actually have
You get written
people-
up.
Yeah, and it goes on your eBay record. and
Your
you're
permanent
up on-
record.
Your permanent record.
You go fucking crack. I don't know. The whole thing absolutely cracked me up. I wanted, actually, for everybody watching, I wanted so badly to keep it going, but Steve actually talked me down from it.
God.
Ruin all fun. If you come at me with a question, just consider all fun dead at that point.
I wanted to have one of my friends use like a fake burner cell phone and write up a fake lawyer's thing and send it to this guy with a countersuit for PTSD or something. I really wanted to make this guy's head explode so bad, but I wrote that I was thinking about a response letter and I sent it. Steve was like, that's all really funny, but I don't think you should bother because XYZ. And I'm like, God damn it. You're totally right, but
He's the fun
fucking
police.
hilarious.
Yeah, man.
It's
It's too inefficient. You should know that if something's inefficient and you ask me about it, that's all that's gonna come out. Like, nah, this is not worth the time.
Yeah, I just people's their balls get so big over the internet, it just cracks me up. I had a friend, John, growing up that was like Mr. Salesman, and a couple of times people went over and was like, hey, it's a nice car, $2,500 is a great deal. Here's $1,000, and he would always just be like, leave right fucking now, and they'd freak out because he was kind of a tough guy, and then he'd be like, well, I can give you $2,000. Be like, no, get out, fuck you, get out right now. So it's so funny, like the difference. People get to be a keyboard tough guy, threaten lawsuits.
And the one nice thing about Adam in this game is he's got such a long reach. I don't think you can punch guys with knives with Blaze.
Does he have a long cock?
No.
How do you know?
He's not much use to any of us.
So the creator of Thumbbob asked me a question the other day, and it was a question he asked a while back. We kind of sort of talked about it, but I wanted to bring it back up because I'm still very unclear. I think I did that thing that I do where it's so far over my head that I just nod and went, gotcha, and then moved on to the next subject. So maybe I could ask again, and maybe I've gotten at least a little bit smarter. But
well, we're all familiar with that, Bob. Actually, I don't think there's any other way I've seen you answer a question.
Power conditioning and for video games and audio.
Power shampoo and power conditioning. Okay, go for it.
So in my guitar amp, which actually ended up having a internal ground loop issue, and I got it replaced with a brand new one. But one of the things that really tremendously helped was using a sine wave power conditioner. When I brought that up when somebody else had asked last year about that, I guess other people have done some research and found that it wasn't the best for video equipment because it could cause weirdness, I guess. So I guess what is the best procedure for people with home theaters and video games, and is it different for CRTs to flat screens?
What's different?
Would you like the battery backup power conditioning UPS method? Would that be the same equipment for a CRT and an LCD or an OLED, or is it like, you know?
There's a big distinction to be made between UPSs that are online versus UPSs that are offline, right? Because there's the online UPS, the output of it always goes through its power circuitry, so you're always running off the battery. So you might have this ugly square wavy output coming out of it. And cheaper UPSs switch over to the battery when there is no power, right? So you have a few cycles where you actually have 0 volts at the output. Most equipment doesn't care if you just drop out a few cycles, but those types of UPSs just put out the regular wall voltage out to the device unless they're on. Mm-hmm. So there's a big difference. So you could have 2 different types of AC voltage on the cheaper UPSs, the perfect sine wave or the near perfect sine wave coming out of the wall, and then the not so nice looking square wavy type sine wave when the UPS is on.
So I do distinctly remember my old place in Stanford. I went to play my Wii through my plasma one time, and there was this horizontal bar that would just slowly come up the screen. As soon as it got to the top, and you'd see it appear right at the bottom again. And I was using a UPS, and I actually think I had 2 separate UPSs back there because I had a lot of equipment. And I don't remember how I ended up fixing it. I don't know if I plugged it both into the same UPS, one into each, both directly into the wall. I don't really remember it. And I do remember just turning it on one day and it wasn't there. So I don't know what that was all about. But I guess what's the first step? So obviously, if you get one of those $8 surge protectors from Target, that's garbage. It's just like plugging it into a splitter directly into a wall.
Yeah.
So what is the best first step for somebody who wants to, better than that, but not in the hundreds of dollars? Is there a really good surge protector you can buy? Is there something that helps condition the power?
We at work on in front of all our UPSs, we use APC voltage regulators. So it's a big, like $100 box. It's got a transformer in it, and it's just a device that makes sure that the voltage is a near constant 120 volts at the output, and that does a much better job than the voltage regulating UPSs that we've seen.
I remember
Go ahead, Zach.
I was just going to say, 10 or 11 years ago, I worked for a private university, and no offense to those people, but if Frank Hoskins was here, he would tell you, but it was fairly incompetently ran, and they had some really nice enterprise level equipment in their server infrastructure. And I remember they were sort of revising some of their fault tolerance and sort of their disaster recovery, and they were interfacing this really nice equipment in their backbone with really shitty UPSs. It's a brand that I only heard of one time, Manhattan. I don't know if any of you guys ever heard of this.
Certainly I just used AAA and APC.
Certainly not a leading standard. Well, I got to looking at these things, And later on, a few years later, when I worked for a hospital, I got to crack one apart. Oh my fucking God. The worst design I've ever seen in a fault-tolerant battery backup conditioning system. And it's just like, I don't know, it really doesn't have much relevance other than the fact that a battery backup is not just a battery backup. You really need to do some homework before you make a decision of what you're putting your systems behind, because that's all I'm saying. Forget you, Bob.
So all right, so this is actually, now we're getting somewhere, and I'm not going to gut you guys. The best example I can give is it happened a lot in my old Stanford apartment, and sometimes now, like, I have everything run through, I don't know, like $120 APC battery backup, and I'll be watching TV, got my OLED TV on, you know, got whatever else I'm using, like an Oppo Blu-ray player, and something will happen and the lights in the apartment will quickly dim and come back, but nothing, like everything stays perfect because I'm running through the UPS. I assumed that was good. I assumed that was a good thing, right?
Well, a lot of large devices have capacitors too. There's something has a huge inrush current. They'll typically have a capacitor, like a refrigerator or something like that, that'll mitigate that very fast power draw on whatever leg in your electrical system.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not only that, is a lot of modern devices will be using a flyback switching regulator, and their input range is really large, like usually from 90 volts AC up to 240, right? They'll support any worldwide voltage. Yep. So those devices can tolerate huge variance at the input without significant effect on the output. So it might not have anything to do with your UPS.
Right.
So then, well, now I'm just going to be fucking selfish because we're already dug into this. When I move next month and I go to reset up my living room, what do you guys recommend? I'm going to have basically one setup that has my OLED TV, stereo, and pretty much all my consoles plugged in. And then I'm going to have my D32 on wheels that I only wheel over when I want to, go crazy and go extreme. So should I have a UPS on the rack with my D32 and then a second one for everything else? Is one more for everything else not enough? Do I do a power conditioner and only put the UPS on like the TV and my router or something?
I mean, Bob, that's up to you. What do you think's the best for you in your life?
Well, oh, go for it. Sorry, Renee.
I think a power conditioner or voltage regulator does a better job of protecting your equipment than a UPS does. And the point of the UPS is to give you enough time to shut down your equipment, but the output isn't necessarily nicer or better than the wall output, right?
Well, don't forget the other use of a UPS, though, is to protect against input surge. I have a friend that maybe, I don't know, they lost 4 cheap routers because of power surges and stuff like that, and I installed a UPS, and they've lost 1 UPS in 5 years because, now that takes care of all that.
Those are typically very different devices, though, Bob. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Renee, go ahead.
So for our viewers that don't know, I'm a network administrator for school board. We run 36 different schools, right? So I've got a whole bunch of UPSs everywhere in Northern Ontario where the power is really shitty. We get brownouts all the time. And so you're right, Bob. A UPS will probably do a good job of protecting for an over voltage condition, but all of the UPSs I've seen are shit for protecting against brownouts.
Yeah, not designed for that.
Yeah, we get short, quick brownouts. And the voltage regulation on the UPS is not fast enough. It actually causes a spike at the output of the voltage regulating UPS when we get a brownout, and it fries our servers.
Yeah, those sort of transient intermittent connections like that, or those transient supply losses, are murderous on UPSs, and they're not designed for that. We had some really questionable power at a hospital a few years ago where it was just bad infrastructure in that area, and they would just jam UPSs in there because they wouldn't buy proper power conditioning back ends for their infrastructure, and so they were supplementing that with UPSs. yes, the UPSs would work, but they would take they would take a blunt of the abuse, and they would just go to hell after 4 or 5 months of operation.
Do you guys know what kind of technologies at like the circuit level that they're using for like surge protection and stuff like that? Because are they just like MOVs? Are they like semiconductor like FET switching things or?
So I'm gonna look up our model right now. It's an APC like 1300, I think is the one we use a lot.
I've never looked at anything like the circuitry on any of this stuff. I'm not too familiar with the innards.
You know, typically the UPS, I mean, the way it used to be back in my day was there'd be a serial interface on there, and when you would lose power through that serial interface on UPS would be connected to your server or to your hardware, and that would initialize a script that would inform all of your hardware to shut down. It's not to maintain power. It's like Renee said, it's to give you time to properly bring these systems down.
Yeah, so all right, I guess we should narrow it down then. I think your average person might want exactly what I'm looking for in that, you know, for small changes in voltage. So like I have an awesome little laser printer, but every time somebody goes to print something, like the lights in my house dim. So it's like it's only for half a second, but that can't be good for all the components on there. So little shit like that, I definitely want to protect against. And then power surges, you know, anything like that, or you know, anytime the power drops off and then comes back on. So for just basic protection like that, it almost sounds like you're saying I should get a UPS and a power conditioner.
You know, what you're talking about specifically, like in the field, if you do a lot of IT, you'll find a lot of these large multifunction printers will typically have this small mini suitcase-sized apparatus that the power comes into this little tiny thing about the size of a notebook, and then it goes into the printer, and it's just for that. It's for that quick initial sudden current draw, that inrush current that comes in, that just pulls the rest of that node or that leg down. If you're wanting to do that, you'd be better served with a device like that than a UPS if you want to keep power stable throughout your lights and stuff when something that's really amp hungry comes on at first. I can send you links to some of that stuff, Bob. But that stuff's relatively inexpensive. I mean, 30 or 40 bucks will get you something really nice that'll what in God's name is going on?
Your UPS just kicked on.
Renee's power is fucked up.
Yeah, and what I'm saying, Bob, is that a UPS is not gonna do anything to protect you against a brownout.
So that being said, this device that you're talking about, 30, 40 bucks that you can buy, how many of them would you need to be able to plug in a big flat screen TV, a surround sound stereo, let's just say 10 video game consoles, including power hungry ones like a PS3 or an Xbox One, and an RGB monitor? Do you need to buy a bunch of these, or
it's calculation you have to do, because a voltage regulator like that is going to be rated in terms of volt amps. So you need to have a look at all your equipment and see how much of it you can plug into it.
What's the definition of a brownout? Because it sounds like what happens if I drink too much coffee.
Brownout is when the line voltage dips below, like the RMS voltage of the sine wave dips below 110. And it stays at that level for a few cycles.
They used to sell these things. I don't know if they still sell them. Monster, the company that made the, you know, all those analog cables. They used to sell these like power conditioning like things that kind of were like the size of a VCR, because you would stack it on your rack, and they would have all this power conditioning and show you like there's like an LCD display with all sorts of nonsense on it. I don't know if that's worth anything. Like, I never tore those down, and I am not familiar with those. But that sounds like more like something that would work in a home theater, right? Is those type of I don't know what it does inside though. If it was me, since I just think you should get like good surge protectors, and then if you have a lot of like power problems, replace them over time because the MOVs wear out. But other than that, like what Renee said, is more common in modern electronics is where they use the flyback transformer topology, and so weird voltages don't matter as much. And so if you're just looking to protect your equipment, then all you need is good surge protectors that get replaced often if you have power problems. So that's my opinion on the whole thing.
Okay, I do have a couple of replies to that. So that monster power conditioner thingy that you were talking about, I remember some of those, and they're ridiculously expensive. And I don't know, with Monster, it's always a gamble.
That's why you gotta get a job at Best Buy so you can get 50% off.
Right, exactly. if people at Best Buy get 50% off of Monster products, that means it doesn't cost $1,000. You know?
I still didn't buy them. Me and Nick worked there, and we still didn't get the Monster stuff with the 50% off.
Right, and then somebody in the chat said, doesn't APC have combo units that do the same thing? Well, that's the other thing is, you know, are you buying a gimmick, or are you buying, even if it's only $100, you know? And so that's the thing that I wanted to nail down. But more importantly, you said a couple times now, just buy a decent surge protector. Can you give an example of one? Because I can't really understand what.
I just put a product name in the chat of what we put in front of all of our servers in our schools. So it's a 1200 volt amp APC line regulator, and that just works wonders for brownouts and surge protects. There's a nice sine wave output of this device. And the device actually shows you whether it's trying to step up or step down the output. And this does a much better job than anything else we've ever tried thus far.
Whoa, this thing's not even $50.
It's pretty damn cheap, yeah.
So surge energy rating 6 to 80 joules. So you just have to make sure that whatever you're putting into this, whether it's 100 components or one, is under 680 joules.
Well,
no, joules is going in. Yeah, sorry. It's late and I worked all day. Sorry, I reversed that. Hold on, I'm looking for the other specs.
It says 1200 watts, so you're good for approximately a bit less than one standard, 15 amp breaker.
All right, that's pretty awesome.
That's one entire circuit. I mean, that's...
So for people that want to be anal, you could hook one of these up to your RGB monitor, because if you have a rare monitor and you want to make sure, really sure that you have no problems with it, you could use this as your mini little surge protector thingy for your monitor, and then probably one, maybe two tops for your full home theater system and other consoles.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
I gotta fight two of these guys right now.
I'm gonna order these bitches right now.
It's not blank.
But for your question, as for surge protectors, I just think you're good enough buying stuff that's not in like the bargain bins at Fry's or wherever you like when you're in the checkout line, like at Micro Center or something, and they have you while you're waiting in line, they have the really cheap crap. Don't get those. Get like something that's just like a name brand, like Belkin or CyberPower or something. And
yeah, I would actually the thing that Renee just posted. What I was planning on doing is putting 2 of those Belkin. There's like 12 on each. There's 3 spots for the big wall warts, and then there's a strip down the middle. Because don't forget, I'm not going to have 24 components on at the same time. So having them all plugged into one of those, I don't think would be a big deal, because I'm only going to have one game console, one TV, maybe 2 TVs, but the monitor will have its own regulation on it, and then a stereo. So I don't really think it's that. You're right, get name brand stuff. I don't think it's a big deal putting surge protect, power strips into one of these things, unless you're trying to power everything at the same time.
Yeah, I'm just saying if you don't want to deal with regulators, if you want, like, so you have surge protector is like the low tier, voltage regulator would be the next, and like the battery backup type. I'm just giving the lower option.
No,
I'm not saying you should chain them.
As much as I appreciate the lower option, some of those Belkin power strips are like $65. Even on sale, you can only get them for like $30. And the thing that Renee posted is on Amazon, it's $47.90. I don't know what that is in Canadian Monopoly money, but I imagine it's still not too bad.
I think it's
it was $60 on my side. Yeah, and you could just put a standard, like a regular power bar in one of these things. And this device is huge. There's just a huge transformer in there, and it's regulating the output of your power. This thing weighs like a good 10 to 15 pounds, so you know it's heavy and no it means business.
Ooh, these went down in price. I'm gonna post something in the chat because this is the other thing that I've been using.
Speaking of the chat, have there
these.
been any good chat questions?
Yeah, I'm starting to go back and just like paste them in like a notepad to make sure we get here's one that's related to what Bob was talking about. Is there any use for those dirty cheap UPS units that you always see at Goodwill with dead batteries? From a Smoke Monster.
Yeah. I mean, you can get some good use out of those. Replace the battery, put bigger batteries in it, and if you want some good failover for, like, if you have some cool internet, some cool networking infrastructure like I would, you could, if you have a storm or something, you can maintain your cable modem and all your switching equipment for hours and hours.
Okay. Another question. On HD Retrovision's website, you have a guide for power supplies on the third-party page. Any plans to expand to more consoles? PS1, the small one, etc. I don't know. That stuff takes a lot of time.
Yeah, I think there was a question, actually kind of related, that was asked on the comment section of our previous episode, which was like, what do you do to judge that a power supply is any good in the first place?
Yeah. We have like questions from last thing, which you want to get to those now, or do you want me to finish up these first?
Yeah, whenever. You can do whatever. Doesn't matter. It's free and easy.
Can you go over the correct way to combine HV sync into C sync? Oh, that's a great question. I was actually planning to eventually write a blog post.
Holy shit, that was awesome.
About that, because it's actually kind of complicated, and everybody does it wrong, I think, in my opinion. So, which is why a lot of hobby projects, they kind of run into issues. But it's not trivial, which is why it turns out so poorly when people do it. It's because it's a complicated thing. It's not something you could trivialize. So maybe eventually write a blog post on that. Doesn't APC have combo units for home theater systems that have a UPS and power conditioner all in one?
Yep, they sure do.
I think we mentioned that already.
Yeah, that was what I was talking about, was how do you know which one of those is a gimmick and which one is actually a good thing to buy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that was my point too. Like I said, like we had these monster things, but then they had really nice LCD things on there, but I didn't know what was going on inside. I didn't know what it was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, at work we use the Backups Pro 1300 a lot from APC, which claims to have online voltage regulating and the power conditioner in the input, but we still have to put that voltage regulator that I linked earlier in front of it for it to work properly, because just that alone would still fry some of our servers in bad power situations. So yeah, even if they claim to have it, doesn't mean that it'll necessarily work. And we've got enough remote sites with enough experience to show that it doesn't always work well.
Maybe I missed this, but why is the power up there so shitty?
There's only one source of power up here, and it's all from hydroelectric dams, right? So if the demand suddenly goes up or suddenly goes down, then there's either a spike or a droop in the line voltage for a few seconds.
Gotcha.
You should just do what I did in SimCity, is I always built mountains before, reticulating splines. I built all these mountains and then put all these water on the mountains. And then when I started my city, I would just dump a bunch of hydroelectric dams because they would never blow up, and none of the environmentalists would complain. And so I'd always have like infinite power because I would just build these towers of hydroelectric. So
I want to comment. Someone said, "Ha, Hydro-Quebec." No, you damn it, I don't live in Quebec. I live in Ontario. Quebec is for the separatists.
Hey, and just to your point before, Steve, so all of the, like the two Belkin, well, it's the same thing, one white, one black, but the Belkin power strip I put in there, if you go into like a thrift shop or something and you find a couple of those for $5 each, the circuitry inside's probably worn out, so you should actually just spend the $25 and get a new one, right?
Yeah, my point was more like, don't buy the absolute crap, and then also don't buy used, which is because you, like you just pointed out, like you don't know how many surges hit those mobs, because the mobs, metal oxide varistors are what they use in these surge protectors, and every hit they take, they get taking future hits. Yes.
Gotcha. So if mine are like 6 or 7 years old, I should probably just stop being such a cheap fuck, throw them out, and get new ones.
I don't know if time's really like an issue. I guess it depends to where you live, and if you get if you have really crappy power.
Oh,
because
I'm
you don't
sure
know
I
how
do.
much it's absorbing, right? So I mean, if you have no anomalies and mobs never kick in, then they're just like fresh ones, right?
Hmm.
So
Somebody in the chat mentioned like the Surge X power conditioners, Surge eliminators. Is that pretty similar? That looks pretty similar to what Renee was talking about.
could be. Yeah, I'm not familiar. I'm gonna through the rest of these questions if you guys don't mind. Were the analog monster cables that much better than ordinary cables? I would say yes. The older ones, the newer ones, where they like the Wii ones and some of the late gaming ones, kind of funky. But also, like, again, me and Nick worked at Best Buy, and they had a really crappy tier, and they had the monster cables, but there was something in the middle that we really liked, and we still like, and I still use, and it's Acoustic Research.
Yes.
They made really good cables, and they weren't, like, they were half the price of, like, monster, and just as good, because it was...
Is it just me, or is Steve's microphone just gone to shit?
Steve, for God's sakes, you're canceling out from noise.
It keeps cutting out, you're right.
Oh, sorry.
Jesus, Steve. Jesus!
I'm just sitting
There we
here.
go.
I don't know what's going on.
Here's the acoustic research that you sent me. That's
And it's
video
half-
cable.
Yeah.
Nick, did you just hold those up to the screen and not the camera, or did I just miss that? Oh, wrong camera.
Yeah,
Sorry, I forgot
yeah,
we're doing
two
the
different
double camera
cameras.
things. Yeah, my stupidity. Yeah, I like those especially for the price. I'm sure there's more that's better, but those are actually affordable. So.
See, my point is, I don't think you can get much better than that. Like, anything better than that was negligible.
Gotcha.
Come on.
Should I stop talking?
It would be great.
Like, does somebody want to, like, take over questions then?
I'll take over questions, sure. I've not been writing any down. Oh, look, oh my God. Our Lord is here.
No way.
Oh my God. Lord, we've been waiting. We were hoping this would happen.
Now,
Ask a question.
now I'm gonna be really nervous about playing this game.
Ooh, there we go.
He's judging you right now.
Someone asked Voultar, any further opinions on the DS3 Rev 2? You know, and that was asked by Jay Sylvester. I have to be perfectly honest with you. I've done a lot of intimate analysis on this Rev 2. The video, all the routing is good. The circuit's kind of shitty, but whatever. But there's nothing inherently wrong with the video circuit to where the video circuit would have an adverse effect on itself. There's something else going on, and I don't believe that the problems that people are having are a result of a supply issue anymore. I don't believe it's the result of a supply issue, and a lot of other things have commanded my time. I want to try to jump back on it. Just sort of going through the process of elimination. You know, this is a very analytical and deductive process. But I'm really kind of stumped by the SSD V2 and what precisely is causing that noise. I know that noise is occurring. Here's what I know. That noise is most prominent, or it only occurs when data is being streamed off of that SD card. And I thought that was interesting. So I moved the SD card off, and all of the control lines and the power and the grounds I isolated and ran manually, and we still had that issue. It's all, and I had two things of thinking. More power, that FPGA and those components are being exercised more when CD data is being streamed, as opposed to just a HUE card. A HUE card loads one time, that game is stored in memory, it's done.
You know what I'm surprised they didn't do is they didn't supply their own power to the TurboGrafx instead of relying on the console's power.
Well, they're relying on that 1 amp 7805 linear to supply their FPGA, all their digital stuff. That's not good.
That's exactly what Woozle did on this thing, actually. I don't know if I'm supposed to be whipping this out, but whatever. He put his own power circuit on his FPGA, and you actually don't put batteries in the Game Boy Advance at all anymore. You power all off of his power circuit. God, I almost dropped it.
So, I mean, but my signal analysis concluded that it's not a supply issue. Everything looked fine on the scopes. I provided its own 5-volt and 3-volt supply. Basically, I lifted the input pins on each of the LDOs on the SSD version 2, and I provided its own independent supply. There was virtually zero change in the video quality after isolating the PC Engine and TurboGrafx supply with the Super SD System 3. The only thing I could think of is some sort of feedback problem when all of those data line. No, see, that doesn't make any sense either. But like all those data lines and the data bus and the address bus, when they're being coupled on there with the when the audio stuff, when the CD stuff is streaming on all the buses, maybe there's some sort of inductance problem. I don't know. I really haven't the faintest idea at this point.
Maybe that's the side effect of making a product with so much hatred and lies built into it.
I would say that. I just say that at all, Bob. Good God.
Yeah. I think I was discussing with Voultar that if I was doing it, I probably would have used the DC power through a P-channel FET that was controlled by the 5-volt coming on. So you would flip the switch to turn on the console, and then that would allow power to come from the actual AC adapter into your own internal circuit, power circuit. But yeah,
so
I mean,
are there things that people could do that want to use this that are good practice anyway? I know we discussed offline once about replacing the 7805 with the 78S05. Maybe it'll help, maybe it won't, but there's zero ill effects of doing that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but replacing that with a brand new one in the updated model could never be a bad thing in these old consoles, right?
I think he did that. I think Zach did it, and he got some better results.
I got some better results on the V1 that I had to do a bunch of shit to already. The V2, when I replaced the linear with one that had a higher amperage rating, there was virtually no difference on the Rev 2 board. So, and as a matter of fact, I mean, it's anecdotal, of course, but there are people on the on that Schmoops forum who I guess they sort of followed along on that stream that I did, and they did what I did, and it actually had an adverse effect, and they say it exacerbated their problem when they replaced the regulator. Don't know, but it's interesting.
So, Zach, can you tell if it's a 4-layer board?
It is a 4-layer board.
It is?
4-layer. Yeah. It's F4. Yeah, it's 4-layer.
Okay. So there would be no excuse for like a bad ground layout with 4-layer board.
Well, that was the problem initially, where they had very poor. It's a mixed signal system, and they had very poor ground isolation between their analog and digital stuff, and that was the sort of the main trauma of the video was that. And when they fixed that, when they kind of took my suggestion on that, 90% of those problems went away. What's left is a very residual issue. Mick, Jesus, learn how to play this game, please. Since Steve has the best time management skills out of all of us, and since he has very little to do, I think I'm going to send him this too. It says Steve. I'm just going to let him look at it. We were going to look at it while he was over for the week or whatever, but we wanted to have fun, and we didn't really do much.
But I actually wasn't kidding at all about what I said. Are there things that people could do to their TurboGrafx or PC engines that may or may not help, but it's still probably a good idea? It may or may not help the SSDS3, but would certainly be a good practice anyway. So obviously that, the voltage regulator, but anything else?
I mean, the voltage. See, this is the thing. I mean, Steve had some good data on the voltage regulator for the SNES and mitigating the vertical bar, but I typically don't. I don't condone so much people just going out and randomly replacing those linear supplies. Those things, for the most part, will probably outlast all of us. They go bad, sure, but I mean, as far as preventative maintenance goes, I mean, passive components like capacitors and electrolytic stuff like that is much more. You're much more favored to replace that than some linear.
I got wrecked.
Voltage regulators, in my opinion.
Hey, did you guys hear that? That was some crazy thunder and lightning, like right outside of my window. Did that come through on the microphone? That was nuts.
Ooh, Nick fails.
Yeah.
Nick
couldn't do it.
Which means I'm going to lightning through some questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
Another thing about the Super CD device is that people could play the real Hue cards and not pirate video games.
Oh, fuck off, Renee.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, even if I owned an entire PC Engine CD collection, I would still rather use an optical drive emulator so I don't have to wear out any of the stuff that's in my PC Engine CD.
I know.
If you feel that way, you're going to be super pissed at me in about another week. You're going to be fucking livid with me.
Good. I like being pissed at you. Like that time that I broke something and got mad at you for it.
Oh, the Master System? Yeah. Yeah, you were reeling over that. So that's a fun 3-minute story.
Oh, do you want to tell it? Go for it.
So Bob gets this really mint Model 2 Master System, super rare in the States, and he was wanting to just fix it up, RGB mod it, and sell it. Flip it, make some money. So he gets in there and he RGB mods it, and
great fucking job too. Everything was pretty. The wires were nice. Everything was run well.
It was shit, but the RGB had noise. There was noise. There was a coupling issue with the subcarrier line, and I had to explain to Bob very
like
simply.
All Master Systems have.
So I had to
continue.
I had to explain to Bob, this is really simple. If you're going to sell this and you want to get a pretty penny and give the best that you can, let's do this quick mod, and you'll mitigate 95% of that noise, and the RGB picture will look very beautiful. And he listened to me, and for about 3 hours of just explaining to him to cut one little trace or one little pin. That took about 4 hours. He rips the pad off. He rips the pin off of the VDP.
Not the pad, the pin.
He rips the pin off of the VDP. He gets so fucking angry.
I lost my shit.
He said this was working perfect. This was working perfect until I listened to you.
I completely took it all out on you like a little bitch. I was flipping out because the wires were really run absolutely great, and I was trying to find different ways to do it. And I lifted up the pin, and then I went back and lifted up a little bit more, and it was so old and brittle it snapped right off. I lost my shit. I was like, 3 months ago I wouldn't have cared, but I fucking need this $200. Fuck you, Zach. Why couldn't you just let well enough alone?
He was so mad about it, and I'm like, You know, well, he's like, well, there goes. He's like, well, there goes fucking $200, Zach. I hope you're fucking happy about that.
Oh yeah, I was
I
a huge
said,
bitch about it.
I was like, you stupid fucking bitch. Just send me the thing. And he sent it to me, and I just dremelled out the pin, and I fixed it, and Bob is such a fucking
No. So there's two endings to this story. He was right. Zach actually, I sent it to him and he did it right away. And as usual, he did a great job, fixed my mistake. And then he said, while I have it here, I'm going to complete the mod that your skills were too inept to pull off. And he was very Voultar about it all. And he did the whole thing and he separated the subcarrier signal and he made it really great. And I got it home and I threw it into my capture card and it had the same fucking interference. The pictures looked identical, the before and after.
The interference that you were The interference that you were seeing was an aliasing effect. It was not a result of the capacitance coupling that happens on that pulse subcarrier line, because the 1145 can accept either a sine wave or a pulse at 0.5 volts peak to peak, and that signal is routed in such a shitty area, and it's a high speed thing, and that was totally taken care of. Don't blame your piece of shit capture card, or don't blame the master system on your piece of shit equipment, Bob. Go back to eBay where you belong.
Well, Ash actually just said you can usually Dremel down the side of the chip package and get enough pin to solder onto. That's exactly what Zach did, but I'm always very open and honest about my lack of soldering skills, which is kind of why I think my guides are handy, because if I can do it, anybody can do it. So yeah, I usually know my limits. I did not expect that using a dental pick tool, after the pin was already up off the board, and just raising it just a hair more, I didn't expect it to go shooting off the chip. That was definitely kind of a surprise for me.
The good news is, though, despite Bob's PMSing, we fixed it, he sold it, made his money back, and once again, I saved the day. He complains about me. Oh, Bob, it's so good.
Oh, God, here we go.
I support this decision with this video game selection, Nick.
Yep.
You know, Bob bitches about me, and he complains about so much stuff.
Is this a hidden gem? I don't know. Do a lot of people know about this game? I felt like it was not a very popular one. I'm going to call it a hidden gem. This is our first hidden gem episode.
Yeah.
Hey, Bob, I know this was supposed to happen 6 months ago, but I'm going to get this out to
Hey, Firebrand X, that's the fucking thing that was supposed to be mailed to you a month ago. Zach, you're the worst. You know, in November, you told me you were going to send me that fucking PlayStation 2 mod chip that you had, that little resistor thing. You said that in November. You're like, I will put that in the mail Tuesday morning, Bob. And then when did I get that? Mid to late February? Something like that?
I don't remember.
Yeah, about 3-4 months. Yep.
You know, Bob, for all the fucking goddamn kickback drama I have to deal with, if you have to wait, I don't know, a couple of years to get some stuff back, it's worth it on your end, pal.
Did you get today's box? Did you get today's?
Yes, and thank you for the car hardware, but I want to look at that data path later.
Yeah, that's actually something that might be worth mentioning. Those DataPath E1S and E1 cards, the first one I got, I put it in my computer, and every time I loaded even its own software, it would freeze the computer. So I tried Windows 10, Windows 7, fresh builds. I tried a different computer. So I contacted the place that I got it from, and they sent me another one. Because I'm pretty sure they don't ever test them. They just pull them out of what they call working machines and ship them out with no anti-static, by the way. They just wrap it in bubble wrap. But the second one came and it worked fine. That original one that didn't work for me worked for Zach for a little while. And then can you explain what you did to fix it?
So it worked very briefly. Well, to be perfectly fair, I didn't really thoroughly test it. What I did was I installed that DataPath card, and I just turned Vision on. And when I opened Vision, it didn't crash. Now, typically when these cards go bad, when you try to launch Vision, you'll get an immediate crash.
Right.
My computer didn't crash, so I just assumed, card's okay, Bob's just a fucking idiot. That still remains to be true, but a couple of weeks later, I was really sort of exercising it and working on it, and it failed. My computer went black, and then the computer would just freeze every time I restarted it until I removed the card. Well, it turns out that either it's just from years of use and years of heat cycling off and on, but the cyclone on that thing gets a little brittle. And so I just worked the FPGA off of the board and reballed it and reworked it back on, and I've not had a problem out of the data path since.
Yeah, I was gonna say, would it be too hard to do a quick video on that when you try to work on this next one? Because that's the other thing I wanted to mention is the second data path card I got worked perfect for a while. Then I hadn't been to my office for like 3 months or something. I took the card out, I put it back into my other computer, and it did the same thing. It died on me. So that's what I just sent to Zach. So maybe you could do a quick video on how to do that. Most people aren't gonna have the equipment or the know-how to do that, but you know, more than a handful will, so that might actually be a great thing to share with people.
Well, you know, it's the reball equipment it's in the garage. Like all of my real reflow equipment is in the garage. I need to find a place for it out here, but just as soon as I do, I intend to make a lot of good reflow, like not reflowing like you got with your PS3s that you bought, but a proper reball. Oh, why don't we talk about that? That's a pretty good juicy drama that I think even today, because these systems are becoming more rare or more uncommon, especially the launch hardware compatible ones, and people are paying such pretty pennies. I think it's important that you talk about, we kind of sometime, maybe not today, but talk about what can happen when you pay money for somebody to rework a PlayStation 3 that has PS2 hardware compatibility.
I'll tell the story if you guys want me to.
I think we should, but we should first answer a backlog of questions.
Yeah, fire away.
That's cool.
Fire away, Steve. I'm so excited.
Some of these I don't understand, but I'll still say them. Is the HDMI kit better than SCART mod on Super Nintendo? I don't know what that means.
The answer is yes. And
if they mean is the Super NT better than SCART into an OSSC, yes, but in my opinion, the main reason is because it's compatible with every TV, whereas Super Nintendo through an OSSC it might have compatibility issues. You might need that new de-jitter mod. So yeah, just for that compatibility reason alone, I would say so.
Okay. Has anyone commented on Voultar's stylish wife beater yet? And you just did, so that answers that. Is it safe to chain the surge protectors into the voltage regulator Renee posted?
No. Well, it's not safe. Do you mean chaining multiple, multiple surge protectors?
Yeah, let's be clear about that. So if that thing that Renee posted has 3 inputs and you plug 1, 2, 3 brand new Belkin surge protectors, or do you mean one Belkin into another Belkin into another Belkin into the thing Renee posted? That would be series.
Well, if you do that, if you chain surge protectors like that, sort of in series, you kind of lose all the perks of having the surge protector, because it sort of nullifies itself.
I'm a little confused. Say that again.
Yeah.
If you have multiple surge protectors
in series, one after the other.
In series.
Into each other.
Well, you know, I'm sorry, that answer was a little too vague because it depends on what the design is of the surge protector. I don't know how the surge protector Renee is endorsed, or whoever's endorsed, how that's built. What kind of surge protector is that? Is it the kind of protector that has active circuitry, or is it just the kind of protector that has maybe some a filament array of where when certain amount of energy is dispersed through it, filaments degrade and the circuit goes open?
Okay.
The one I posted is transformer based, and I'm gonna guess here a bit, but I'm gonna say that it just has multiple taps on the transformer, and it'll select different taps based on what the input voltage is.
So 3 separate brand new surge protectors into the 3 different inputs on there should definitely be fine then.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm sorry, I think I might have misunderstood a little bit, but yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
In your butt.
Okay, another power question. Do wall warts draw power even if the system isn't powered on?
Oh yes.
And
yes, they do.
That I would say that the transformer linear based ones that are shipped with all the old consoles
3 watts?
way more way more of that versus the switching supplies.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I guess the Power Plus thing that we recommend, you're probably wasting, the most you're wasting is powering that LED on that Bob covers with electrical tape.
Because I hate it.
The LED
But-
that stays on after you unplug it.
Yeah. But there's, other than that, it's switching supplies are way more efficient. So if your other side where you're being powered is not drawing much, that you're not wasting power on the other side, unless like little leakage things like that with the LED. So that's one of the reasons why I like switching supplies that are well built and low noise, is because of that issue with the leaking.
And one of the first questions we talked about that was power related, whatever, when we first started this, was a couple of people were asking, is it better to turn off your surge protectors when you're not using your consoles? And I think you determined that it doesn't really matter, right? Unless you're worried about things like power surges or something.
That was on the console side,
Mhm.
right? I guess
Console side, yeah.
this is like, is power like leaking into your console?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say most of those, no. I mean, you have to look at the schematics, see where the power switch inside the console is located. If it has a hard power switch, most likely no. Then because that switch is what's stopping it power from going in. But you know, there's other consoles that have like standby voltages, the newer stuff, like the PlayStations. So those are different. But yeah, okay. Anyone know about the Sega Lindbergh at all? Somebody had some game discs, but not the security dongle. Any hex files around for that? I don't know.
I don't know what that is.
I'm watching Nick kick some ass, though.
Philios is awesome, man. Love that game. What about Monster HDMI cables? Isn't that like better digital? I'd say that it depends on speed and distance. Is when a better HDMI cable helps you. Is if you're going long distances, or if the resolution or speed of the signal is really long. You can probably 480p going 1 foot can probably be not even like an HDMI spec cable. You could probably take like wires that aren't twisted, like really junky, not shielded, and probably go 1 foot, and you'll likely still get like a perfect signal. So it's really
What is your definition of a long run? Because that's different for every type of cable. Like long for USB is 20 feet, but long for HDMI might be what, 50, 75 feet or something.
And long for Bob is naturally 2 inches.
I would have said anything probably 10 foot or more is long.
Goddamn right, you will.
But I'm saying, like, don't go and buy the more expensive cables unless you're in a scenario where you're getting problems. Like, that's the next step to try better cables if you're having issues.
It's just like the mono price. Like if I needed 50-foot HDMI cable, getting a thicker monoprice one, would that be okay, or would you recommend something different?
Yeah, I mean get the ones with the lower gauge. They spec the gauge, get the lower one. That's the thicker wires, so you'll have less attenuation over the length of copper. Otherwise, there are other cable manufacturers that make even lower gauges that make, I don't know, better controlled impedance wires. Usually the price tells you how good it's built, but like I said, if your demands are low for the type of signal you're sending, then you can get away with basic stuff.
Cool.
A few more, and then we can go back to stories. Can you use coax on sound and picture? And I would say yes, because that's what we do. Usually the audio, because it's such low frequencies, you don't need a controlled impedance line. And the impedances aren't really like, for line level audio, they're not matched. First, they're not matched, and they're not well defined. So, can't really like go wrong with the coax, because coaxes are well shielded.
I mean, these questions are super stimulating. I'm sorry, I have to comment. Nick is absolutely fucking owning this game right now.
Well, I'm not playing on hard, so that helps. There's no way I could play this on hard without playing it through on Novus first, because I don't remember the patterns.
You've got skills, brah.
Okay, 2 more. Anyone know off the top of their head how much power the Game Gear backlight inverter normally draws?
A lot.
Okay.
I mean, enough to drain 6 AA batteries in, what, a minute and a half or something?
Yeah, that's right.
By the end of the first level of Sonic, you gotta change your batteries, so...
It's super high voltage.
That's why you gotta use those, I love the AA lithium batteries, the Energizer ones. I love those things.
My Game Gear was just a console that was easier to move from one outlet to another. I just used the rechargeable, but always had it plugged in.
I went on a school trip with a Sega Nomad when I was a kid in grade 8, and I was stupid. I brought just 2 sets of 6 AA batteries, and we were going on a 10-hour bus ride to Toronto.
What a fool.
So I played Nomad for like 2 hours, and I ate through all my batteries, and I couldn't play for the rest of the week.
I'm surprised you made it to 2 hours.
I know.
You know, the shmup that Nick's playing, it reminds me of a shmup that I really try to get Steve to play with me, because I've always wanted someone to play this game with me. It's pretty hard, but I think it's phenomenal. It's called Legendary Wings for the NES.
Yeah, that was
It's an arcade game too. It's a Capcom shmup. Awesome game.
They don't give you like any lives though. That's it was tough.
Yeah, it's super tough, but it's really fun.
Yeah.
Another game that people don't really talk about. I don't know if it's a hidden gem or not, but I made Steve play it with me. Jackal, a Konami game for the NES.
That's a great game.
Oh my God, it's one of the best games.
I love that game.
We beat the fuck out of that.
That was good.
Fuck.
Had a lot of fun with that. And Steve, do you want to talk about? Okay, so Steve's been coming over for the past few years. We kind of have like a little mini vacation every year. And like last year, I tried to get him to play this game, this homebrew. It's just a generic ass homebrew, Rockman minus Infinity, and he didn't really want to play it. He was not into it. And he came over this year. We were having our company retreat minus Nick because we don't particularly like him. And so
That's right.
and so he comes over and he's like, man, I don't want to play this. I'm like, you're going to play it. And he played it. He got hooked. And it was honestly the most fun game I've ever seen anybody play because you were so surprised.
Was Steve having the best time of his life?
I asked him.
It was pretty damn good. I was like sweating and like the things like just kept getting better and better and better. And when you thought it was like, oh man, this can't get any better, it got better. So that was like, I didn't think that. So my favorite game, NES game before I played that was Battle Kid 2. Which I love Battle Kid and Battle Kid 2. And this game kind of comes close or maybe beats them.
Aren't all those games like insanely hard though?
Yeah, but they were awesome.
Can you post like a ROM hacking link in the chat then for people that want to play it?
Rockman minus Infinity?
Yeah.
Calling it a ROM hack like doesn't do it justice.
That's not a ROM hack. That's a game from scratch, and it's probably the most. It's from a programmer's perspective.
Yeah, we were blown away because like me and Voultar like know the technical stuff, and we were blown away by not only just the raw gameplay of how fun it was, but like how is all this technical stuff happening on the screen on in NES? It was ridiculous.
What's the style of game that it is?
It's Mega Man. It's Mega Man.
It's Rockman.
Okay.
It's Cockman, but like the graphics, the graphical effects, especially there's this one. I don't want to.
I didn't know if they just stole the IP and did something else with it, or just did a platformer.
There's a fire section, and the way the fire is rendered with sort of the tile graphics, it's pixel perfect transition, and it's so much data that he's shifting on the bottom of the screen, and it looks so unbelievable. You know, kind of like in Metroid, if you don't, in like Super Metroid, when you go into those zones, you can almost see like the heat waves.
Yeah.
It's just like that, only for the NES and to like the upteenth scale. It was phenomenal.
It didn't slow down at all.
No,
during that.
the 6502 was just humming right along. It's like the
was insane.
cycle perfect like harmony. It's the greatest thing I've ever seen on the NES.
Yeah, it was.
So this
it was
is
pretty
Rockman
good.
4 minus Infinity, correct?
Yes.
Rockman
yes.
4 minus Infinity, and I have been in the process over the past 6 months of I don't know where it's at. I've been building. It's a complicated cart to make. Oh no. Speaking of which, no ROM carts, no failure drives, or no power sacks will support this game.
Really?
Because
I bet you the whatchamacallit, the NT Mini would though, right?
I don't know because the reason that the power pack for the failure drive doesn't is because it exceeds the one megabyte ROM size. You can only have a maximum of 1 megabyte per character ROM or per program ROM, and so this game grossly exceeds that. It requires a 27C801, an 8-bit, 8 megabit or 1 megabyte EEPROM. Let me find it in my butt. Oh, here it is. So this is the Famicom board. It's an MMC5. I installed the 27C801 while Steve was here, and I wired that up. But I've got to find some work RAM because you got to replace the character ROM that was for this game. You got to replace the character ROM with the work RAM, and I've got to just jam some work RAM in here. But I made this for Steve because he really enjoyed it. So, really good game. Really good game.
Yeah.
Really good game in my butt. Also, speaking
Smoke
of good
Monster said that it'll play on the NT Mini.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find a link to at least the Oh wait, here you go. I think I found one. Yeah, here it is. Hold on. Sorry, guys.
I was going to say, we were talking earlier about sort of like carts. People are always asking me about battery holders and battery clips for, to put in SNES carts or whatever. Now, I use these, which are really good. You may have to modify them a little bit, but I found some on eBay that are much cheaper. I've not had a chance to use, but these are low profile too, and I think that these would work quite well in NES cartridges and SNES cartridges and so on and so forth. For a CR2032 battery holder. I bought bags of them.
So there's one more question I have on my list for now, and it's from our Lord. So, utmost respect. A question regarding PC Engine, guys. I've not looked into it yet. Using the G-SCART switch plus RGB PC Engine or SSD S3 version 1 via RGB and then to OSSC, it would never sync. Ideas? If I skip the G-SCART switch, it works.
So I do distinctly remember a lot of people having problems with the RGB mod into a G-SCART switch, but never with the graphics booster, and I don't know about with Voultar's mod. So what mod did he say was
I know
inside
why
it?
this doesn't work. We talked about this. So
Go for it.
I can
Sorry.
explain
Yeah.
it. My lord. The reason that the SSD version 1 doesn't work properly is because they're using combinational logic to combine the horizontal and vertical sync pulses, and it's to an effect that it just doesn't agree with the G-SCART switch. You shouldn't be using that anyways. You're a better man than that.
Well, he said it was with a regular RGB PC engine, which I don't know what that means.
Well, I'm trying to get there, Bob. I'm just trying to explain because he mentioned two different sort of modalities here.
Right.
So the second is you're interfacing your RGB mod. Now, I don't know what kind of RGB mod you have. But if you're using the composite video, which most of these PC Engine mods other than mine use as a sync source, that isn't going to get along. That isn't going to get along with Super G's sync modulation apparatus circuitry. What you need to do is you need to give me about a week, and I'll send you one of these, okay? And I'll send you one of these, and I'll send you one of these. I'll send you some RGB amps, Ward, so you don't have to worry about this anymore. That's my answer.
One other thing I wanted to point out is the PC Engine sync pattern, by its nature, how they generate it inside the IC, is a little off on the vertical portion. Right when it gets to the VSync portion, it's a little longer before it has that first falling edge, and then once it gets back to normal, it's a little shorter on the rising edge. So if you put it on a scope, you'll see that the falling edges aren't the same spacing. They're not in the same spacing for that portion, and I think on some devices that is enough to screw things up. So that's another aspect to that might be causing problems.
Unfortunately, they took my advice on that, but you're better off just using the 6260 it combines that for you, and it has a pin that's called C-Sync. Use that and buffer that up and shape that out. Don't fuck with those. Don't try to combine that, because you're just going to run into trouble. And Nick, is it possible, do you think, that we'll see you complete one game?
I completed the Novus version of Philios.
Did you beat that?
Yeah, you can only do the first 4 chapters though. I could start it on advanced now, but there's no way I'm going to beat it in 20 minutes.
Someone asks, when will the IFU RGB be available to buy? Within a week and a half, Collector Cast. I will hopefully have that ready to go. I've got several protos here, of course, but now I have an order coming from China, and with a bunch of other good stuff that's coming. And like I said earlier, those are going to be available in spring. Those will still be available in spring, as will the universal capture interfaces and a few other things, and the Game Boy thing, and
more stuff.
Ching Schlong Johnson. There's something really exciting that I want to talk about that I can't, but when I talk about it here very soon, it'll be ready. And everyone, there's a lot of people in this community who will really appreciate this, because I think this solves a huge and expensive problem that people have had over the course of several years. And this problem is only getting more expensive because certain resources are only so finite. So really excited to talk about something soon in my body.
Looking through more questions right now. What system is this? What system is this? What are you playing on, Nick?
That's Jaguar, isn't it?
No, which model Genesis? Yeah.
Oh, this is Steve's shitty Genesis 2 that I just keep up here.
Yeah, I can see the noise is terrible.
See, yeah, people were saying that, but I don't see any noise on the monitor I'm playing on.
I can.
Oh, you know what? You're using that crappy USB 3 HD cap, right? Which has like aliasing problems.
Yeah, I guess it could be that. That would make sense.
Well, if that's the thing that I borrowed from Bob that was terrible, the thing's a piece of junk. It's not junk. It's actually pretty good. I'm sorry, Bob. It's not junk.
Which one?
This is the USB 3 HD cap. I don't think it's Genesis introducing jail bars.
If you look in the green, it's all in the green. Like when you're on that anything. But we're talking a lot of technical stuff, and that's fine. But let's talk fun stuff. What are some of your first experiences how was everyone here introduced to the Sega Genesis, and what were your thoughts as a kid? Were you Nintendo fanboys that were like, wow, this is pretty cool, or were you thinking, man, this blows compared to my Super Nintendo? I mean, let's talk about that.
I was 100% Nintendo fanboy as a kid. As shocking as that might be to my online persona nowadays.
I had a good experience when I was a kid because I got to play a lot of both. I had the Super Nintendo when it came out, but our relatives who we spent a lot of time with growing up, they had Genesis. So every time we were over there, we were playing Genesis. That's where I played Philios. That's where I played all my Sonic, all my Road Rash, all that stuff over there. So I kind of got the best of both. But most games, I thought, Super Nintendo looked and sounded better, but didn't have my head that far up my ass, and I was able to admit when the Genesis versions were better, which a lot of people in my ilk were not able to do.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when people just can't let go of vanity and just enjoy things for what they are. I already told my Genesis story, but I just hope that Woozle's here, and we're going to get technical again because I just saw him. Woozle, this is going to... I need this in my life, Woozle. I need this in my life. Please. I need you to help me. I need you to help help me help myself. How come Bob gets special treatment?
Clearly, I'm prettier than you are.
Go fuck yourself.
He's right.
But yeah, the Genesis. It's such an I'm a little, probably a lot younger than you guys. You guys are kind of older to me, but by a lot. But I'm 31. I was kind of late to the 16-bit era scene, or I was much younger. Well, I mean, Steve and I Nick, I guess, are about the same age. I think Renee's old as fuck, and Bob is too.
Steve and I are both 33.
Okay, so yeah, we're about 2 years. There's about 2 years difference there.
I'm just 34. What the hell, man?
Old as fuck. But
Continue.
Those playground arguments, they're still just so vividly vibrant in my head. I can just recall back to like people arguing over Final Fight 1, which was a terrible game for the SNES, or Streets of Rage, or Sonic versus Mario, or which was even more hilarious.
Mario.
What about Mario versus Mario?
I remember kids arguing over. I remember kids arguing over Eternal Champions versus Street Fighter 2 for the Super Nintendo. And I'm like,
Champions is such a shitty game.
That is such a
no contest.
Terrible game. But I was definitely go ahead.
What was that game that had like a 480i mode or something, that some sort of street something that you told Nick about? He was looking at the code.
Oh yeah, for the SNES, the combat game.
Street Combat or something?
Yes, I think it was Street Combat or something that plays it takes advantage of one of the interlaced video modes of the PPU on the SNES. Terrible game, but excellent testing software. Yeah, I don't know how I knew that. I was just playing with games, and I saw that. I'm like, well, look at that. That's the only game I know of other than Wanderers from Ease has a optional interlace mode, and if you read it in the instructions, it says to make the text sharper, enable this mode. And
I don't think it says that.
It doesn't. Yeah, yes, it does. In the manual, it does say that for sharper text. It says for sharper text or for clear text, enable this mode or do this in the options.
I don't remember it saying for sharper text. I remember it saying some really vague reason that made no sense. They just threw it in there because they could. I don't know. I have the manual. I'll go check it later.
Yeah, check it later. Check it twice.
But because we're kind of approaching time, I kind of wanted to go through the questions we had backlogged from the last thing so we can get them out of the way. You guys don't mind?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, go.
I think that'll be pretty quick.
Yeah, there's only a few. question about PS1 C-Sync mod. There's a lot of information about this out there on somewhat reputable sites. I'm looking to do this on a PU18 motherboard, which is arguably the most common. Here's the most informed post I found. It's some Assembler Games post. I don't know. The question is, should I pull C-Sync from the V on the motherboard, which is purportedly outputting TTL, and go straight to the multi-out? From there, I could disable composite video and have 470 ohm, blah, blah, blah. Some people have bridged C-Sync with a composite video line, use onboard, which I believe would not be correct. But I remember the reason why I put this question in here was Voultar knows the answer. So,
I know this. I reviewed that question earlier in the Assembler Games forum with that information. Every bit of that information found in that thread concerning C-Sync for the PlayStation 1 is just patently wrong. I'm not trying to sound like an asshole. I'm just saying it's all wrong.
Yeah, the reason why I referenced Voultar is because I like the way he does it better.
So, I looked at this about a year ago because there were a few, not that it's a super necessary mod, but there are a few streamers who were just trying to get every ounce of performance out of their video quality for their live streams. And they asked me if I would do a proper C-Sync mod. And so I looked into this with actual real equipment. And I determined that the composite sync signal off of that DAC is a 3 volt logic sync signal, and that in order to do that properly, what I did was I took a 500 plus ohm resistor, and I coupled that with I took off, first of all, composite sync replaces composite video, right? So I took what was already on the board and repurposed it. We don't need the 220 microfarad capacitor for composite video anymore because we're no longer AC coupling composite video. So I simply repurposed that circuit, and I'm joining my composite sync signal that I shape out into that 220 microfarad capacitor, which is there to provide isolation more so than anything. And that's how I interface or that's how I jam or shoot composite sync out, is with a 500 and anything between 400 and 600 is fine. Ohm resistor.
So to simplify, you rotate that cap, right?
I take the cap and I rotate it about 45 degrees so that the input pad is not aligned with the pin on the capacitor for the input. Or the positive side of the capacitor is not is 45 degrees offset from the pad, so you can solder to it and it's not going to short anything. There's actually, if you go to my Twitter, I have several pictures of this where I do this and documented it. And I have actually a whole. Did you see that tub up there? Tub girl. I have a whole. That's nothing but PS1s that I've conditioned, modded, for. Oh! It's nothing but PS1s that have been thoroughly modded with all those tricks, and I'm going to be putting those up for sale soon. But anyways, Woozle, please listen to me. I need you so bad right now. I need you to help me in your body. But at any rate, that's, composite sync, everything up until what I did. I'm not saying this to be an asshole, but it was just terribly wrong.
I don't get it. Why is Adam in your intro but not in the show? We keep running out of time. Keep running out of time.
Yeah, that's right.
He's too busy just playing the fucking game.
Yeah, because he actually uses games to fucking test things, Bob.
I know.
He did you a favor. You just,
He did do me a favor because I enjoyed that so much.
You know what's interesting? Bob, you really never talked about really what happened publicly. And I mean, you did, but there was such an interesting exchange, and I was always kind of curious as to why you never really got into it. You just, this is what happened, and okay, on to the next segment. Renee has decided that he wants a vibrator for Christmas. And then, you talk about that for an hour. Do you feel like you were thoroughly satisfied with the exchange with Adam Corlick?
It was more than I expected it to be. I expected it was better than I expected it to be. I did hope. I honestly really did hope that he was just an excitable person, that sometimes things fall out the wrong way. Clearly that happens to me on a regular basis, but I think we all kind of knew what to expect. But I didn't realize he was going to get nervous, lose his temper, and snap at me. That just made me giggle on the inside.
What was interesting about that whole exchange is not the fact that he got really snippy in his retort. What I found most sort of almost disconcerting was the fact that he was lecturing you on what RGB was and what this technology entails, while in fact I know unequivocally he must have used your website as a reference for all those bullshit videos he makes about RGB. To me, that was like a huge slap in the face. I was kind of pissed about that.
I thought it was funny.
I thought it was hilarious.
It was hilarious, but like, it's almost insulting. Like, you're talking to the guy who taught you this stuff. Like,
so I see on a regular basis people. I've seen written articles. I've seen YouTube videos where not only do they get information from my page, but they pretty much copy and paste a paragraph and then read it. And it cracks me up. It used to annoy me. Now it kind of cracks me up. And I do, although it's a small thing, I do actually always really appreciate most people that are at least in the scene will at the end throw a credit in or just be like, and I saw on, and that's nice. That's all I ever wanted, was just like, throw a little bone my way that way. But it does kind of crack me up to see some people, especially, I don't want to name the name because I don't want to start a fight, but there was an online tech blog that was very popular that a couple of times just pretty much copied and pasted stuff and then never linked back to me and then got everything else wrong.
Who was that, Bob?
It drove me nuts. I don't want to say.
Yeah, we do, Bob. Let's say it.
It did kind of fucking annoy me.
The thing is, a lot of times that stuff's not done out of malice. Like, I think people actually think that if it's on the internet, it's free type of thing. Like, that's their...
True, and before I started doing YouTube stuff, people had no idea what RetroRGB was. Is it just like a group of 100 people just dumping info? Is it just a few people spending a few minutes here and there? I think once people realized that it was one guy that put thousands of hours into it to get it to the shitty state it's in now, I think once people realized that, they started looking at it at least a little bit differently. But
Bob, I have a question. Do you have any intentions of making a wiki that's sort of predicated on all of this?
Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that because I was talking behind the scenes and I found out that my wiki and new version of RetroRGB will be launched on the same day that the HDMizer is released, that the Genesis Triple Bypass, that Electron Ash is Dreamcast HDMI, and that Voultar's Neo Geo board. We're all going to be releasing on the same day, so all of you can fucking eat it.
Hey man, I didn't ask the question, man.
In all seriousness, next week I'm hardcore starting work on getting everything moved over. My goal is as soon as humanly possible, and I don't know. I think what's going to happen is on Monday I'm going to start with 2 new sites and just start copying everything over. So.
The thing is, here's the thing, and this is, and I'm just, I want to speak very candidly about this. Bob doesn't have to say anything. This is just my opinion, but I think the reason that Bob is this beautiful wiki hasn't come to real fruition yet is because it's a time sink and it's a resource shortage. But what I'm trying to convince Bob of is that there are people in this community who can be trusted, that can shoulder the responsibility of migrating and adding all of this data to your wiki, or at least help you. Why don't you get let's get like Electron Ash and Firebrand X, get on a Skype call with them. People like that are trustworthy, and people like that, and me too, and everyone else, we can help you get this going.
So, it's a very easy answer to that. Getting him, I spent a lot of time and a lot of money running down a road thinking I was going the right direction, and it turned out to be an investment in learning that was the wrong way to do it. So getting it up and running the way it should be is now probably a full week's worth of work, so not terrible. the reason it hasn't happened, you're right, I haven't had time up until now, but also that when it launches, the key to this being successful is after it launches, making sure that somebody's there, meaning me at first at least, to always monitor the content going through and verify everything. And that's the only reason why I haven't just said, screw it, I'll put it on a credit card and pay somebody to do it, because after it launches, somebody's going to be there. But I've restructured everything so that's happening soon. So
yeah, I've thought a lot about this. I've thought a lot about this. You know, we've kind of talked about sort of the layout and topology of the wiki and how everything can be situated and designed and still flow fairly seamlessly. I think the best thing to do is it's not so much about relinquishing control, but do things that are full disclosures on a very temporary basis, and poll the people who will be using this most in regard to how this works best for them, or what flows the best for them when they're trying to ascertain things and grab data off this thing, rather than just saying, okay, I've hired this guy, he's going to put this wiki together, this is sort of the skeleton of the site, this is the structure of it, that's it. I think having these people that we're talking to in chat be the feedbackers would make your site 100,000 times more better, because
I agree 100%. The only other thing I'll add to that, though, is I became a victim of something that I always wag my finger at other people about, and that so often just starting something is the best method. Even if you know that your step one is wrong, as long as you're conscious of that and go, all right, I'm just going to do it, it's going to go live, let's all just fix it afterwards. There's a time to do that, and there's a time not to do that. And I've usually in the past been good about that, and this one was a big fail. This was one of those things that I should have just done it and then kind of worked backwards from there. And that's, you know, that actually applies to hardware, software, everything. There are some things that you should just release and then deal with it afterwards. Not to pick on you, Renee, but the Extron audio board was the perfect example. Something a bunch of people want, just release it. Oh, hey, there's a tiny little mistake that could be fixed with two swipes of the thing. Fuck it, beautiful. We'll work back from there. And there's other things that should be worked on, you know, a public beta, whatever else. But this one, yeah, I should have just launched it, public beta, moved from there. Kind of a mistake. But
so can we like have a game plan rather than you just kind of like spinning your wheels?
No, there already is one in place. I'll tell you. I'll tell you if you want. It's kind of short because you guys already know the details of everything else.
Well, I mean, I think since this is sort of your debut back, in some capacity, people ask me this all the time. No, they don't. Maybe you can sort of give like a quick 2-minute like where that's going to be in the direction you'd like to take it.
So, as soon as humanly possible, so realistically by the end of June, but probably sooner. The website's getting split off into two, and it's the original plan that I had a couple months ago. RetroRGB, as we know, it's going to be a news site and a review site, and filled with, you know, all of my bullshit opinions, and it's my site with, I'm going to invite as many people that want to contribute, but that's my getting the news out, getting everything else. And then TechWiki is going to launch with all of the guides and stuff. And that's going to be community-based. Anybody with a free account can post, but no posts will go live until an admin goes through and makes sure. That prevents spam and erroneous info. And it's going to be heavily policed, but with as little opinion as possible. So, you know, I don't care if I think Zach's the coolest guy on the planet or if I think you're the biggest dirtbag. If you post something that's correct, it gets posted. If it's incorrect, and I could say, hey, I just scoped this and this is wrong, it doesn't get posted. So there is no gray area. This is all nerds and numbers now on the wiki. On RetroRGB, it's editorial, opinion, news, but the wiki is just, we need this to last forever, because just like classic cars, you know, who would have thought, you know, in the 60s when somebody was driving a Camaro that, you know, all these years later, people are still going to want to rebuild those from scratch and put a lot of effort into getting the best out of them. So,
well, you know, the word preservation, it kind of disgusts me every time I hear it now because of, well, a couple of different reasons, but more so than this sort of altruistic act of preservation. Fucking stroke my cock already. What you're doing is far more important than that. This wiki will be the bastion that that is going to combat 10 plus years of erroneous forum mythology, and it is going to be the catalyst that does, or that hopefully undoes and nullifies all of this terrible information that people are using and referencing for their own little stuff, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me this is one of the most important things that you'll probably ever do in your life.
Yeah, and I'm going to try really hard from day one to make sure that TechWiki is never presented as my site. I want it to be presented as a community technical site. And, you know, I really, like, it would be nice to have credit because I have an ego like every other human, but it really is just about everybody else preserving info and trading guides and getting the best out of all their old electronics. And I think the more I talk to people lately, you know, some of the most popular stuff is like the Super Nintendo modding guides. But I think things that are really going to start to go through the roof in the next couple of years are all the people that have the skills and have the equipment to do like capacitor replacements on monitors. If they simply take a couple of shots of the boards, and then if we just have like a little, you know, spreadsheet plugin so they could put in all of the capacitors you need, and then maybe like links to DigiKey, people are going to have to do that anyway. If you want to recap your monitor, you're going to have to do that. So why not just type it into a wiki rather than write it on a notepad or, you know, save it into a Word doc? I think that's going to be the thing that people are going to start to go crazy over, because now you have the skills and you have the equipment to recap a monitor, but you don't have the time to check 200 capacitors. But maybe somebody else donated their time, and now you just download that, go to, you know, DigiKey, get your caps, and do it yourself. I think that's going to be the thing that really helps.
Hey guys, we just lost our ad revenue for the Bob's Tech Wiki sites, so I think we ran out. We ran out of funds.
Real quick,
for this ad.
I just wanted to say, Bob, what you just said, it's effectively what I told a young kid once on a boat many years ago, and that was just simply, you know, if you run out of ammo, you can have mine.
Yeah, sorry, I think I rambled too long about that, but I'm a little excited to get it running.
I just wanted to do it. I like doing Snake. If you run out of ammo, you can have mine. Sorry.
So, Steve, did we get through everything?
Nope.
Can we lightning round the last ones, or are they more complicated?
They're super complicated.
All right, well, those people get to watch next time on the Retro Roundtable.
Well, there is some other chat questions that are pretty quick.
Okay, let's do those.
Did Bob disappear because he was being pursued by the IRS for millions of dollars in undeclared Patterson income?
I don't know what that is.
What is Patterson
Just
income?
say yes. Yes.
I don't understand.
Voultar, are you going to be making tutorial videos about oscilloscopes? I have a Rigel on the way.
I don't know. Maybe. It depends.
How many of you are still a tad shocked that Dujin Dance is actually doing good mod work now?
You know, let me just sort of preface what I'm about to say with
and that's it. That's the last.
My video, the video that I initially made, worked. It worked. It wasn't out of malice, and it wasn't to be an asshole. What you're seeing now is the precise result that I was hoping for.
Yeah.
Now, the video circuit is shit. Don't make no mistake about it. It's the video circuit is ass and not shaped to complement the PC engine, but it's clean, it's safe, and his workmanship has it's substantially improved. So, nevertheless, the video that I made served its purpose.
So basically, you're taking credit for the whole thing.
I'm absolutely taking credit for it because I don't think this. I think it was the catalyst. I do not believe this would have happened otherwise.
So to the question, you're not shocked because your video was the one that
you know, and maybe,
you knew it was going to do that. Basically,
maybe it was my presentation, but the whole sort of gist of that video was not to be mean. It was to influence and maybe inspire somebody to do a little better. Some people got that, and a lot of people didn't, and they thought I was just being mean. But the purpose of that video is for what you're seeing right now, as far as Dujin Dance is concerned, and I'm really happy about that. I'm happy. I'm proud of him.
I'm
Yeah, I
surprised
think we
he
all know
watched it.
that. I never like inflating Zach's ego, but I have to give this one to you. I think taking one for the team, making that video, and then taking all the shit that got thrown at you after he made it, benefited everybody, including Fusion.
Oh, all the shit that gets thrown at Zach. He always makes a big deal about that, saying all these people are talking crap, and then I go to his video and it's like 2 comments, and the rest are praise.
Dude, look at seriously. Look at the Crayola King SNES video. It has almost half. It has like 1,200 likes and like 500 dislikes, and the comments are evil. Those people really don't understand what I'm trying to do, and they're, God,
500 dislikes.
Who cares?
Yeah, I think that video had the same effect as my flashcard article, right? We got a lot of shit thrown our way, but people are asking questions now, and they're demanding quality. In your case, quality mod work. In my case, quality repros, quality flashcards with the proper interfaces. So
nobody's perfect. Do you know what I did? Just real quick. Do you know what I did the other day? I sent an NES that I NES-RGB modded back, and I forgot to put all of the goddamn screws in the bottom of it. So when the guy got it back, it arrived with the top shell and the bottom shell separated. It's not about being perfect. We all make mistakes, but we can all strive to improve our own wood. That's all.
Agreed. Well, all right, are we gonna call it a night?
God, this is fucking useless. You beat one game?
Yeah, I beat like half a game.
God damn it. I'm doing it next time.
Well, you bullied me into playing hard mode on Streets of Rage. I knew there was a good chance. It's not a great one-player game, but that's all right.
Well, I think it was really fun.
One of the greatest nights of my life was beating that game on hardest with my brother. That was like back in college, so probably 10 years ago now. We beat that with... my brother died in the boss room, and I was on... I had a fraction of health left when I finally laid the final drop kick on the boss. That was the...
I'm sorry. I thought this was going to be a sad story, like it was the greatest night of your life because you and your brother beat this game, and later he died. But then when you said he died in a boss room, I'm like, oh, man, you just lighten the mood there, buckaroo.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a heart attack while we were fighting the final boss, and I let him die because there's no way.
And then when he woke up, he said, "Did you beat him?"
Yeah.
Yeah, brother.
That was his last words, and I gave him a thumbs up. He died with a smile on his face.
I think this was fun.
Who's playing next? Is Renee going to speedrun Super Metroid?
I can do it next. I'm mostly set up here. Yeah.
Yeah, I vote for that. I saw Renee play Super Metroid at the Montreal Expo last year, and I was impressed. So I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I won't be streaming here. I'll be streaming on my own channel, so I can increase my viewer count and subscription base.
If you think this is going to increase our viewer count?
Well, nothing has for this channel so far, so that's why I'm doing it on mine.
You know, when it comes my turn, I'm gonna have Carsey come over and speedrun Resident Evil on this stream just to embarrass the shit out of you guys, because he is the man at that game.
You shouldn't have told us and just had him play it, and then you would have a fake controller.
Yeah, that's right.
That would only be funny if I actually showed him at the end and said it was him playing the whole time, because I don't... jokes are funny. I don't like lying like that, but it would be hilarious if like 20 minutes into it, when you're like, how is Bob doing this? I just turned the camera like, wave Carsey, you're on.
Well, we just ruined that joke, so we can never do that now.
Yeah, I have to hand it to people that are actually able to stream and entertain at the same time. That's something that I see as super tough to do. Like,
Great.
Those guys that make a shitload of money doing it, like, I mean, I guess the big guy now, like, his name's Ninja. He plays Fortnite, but it's also super entertaining to a few 100,000 people at the same time. I mean, I don't know how they do it. It's insane.
You know what? I look at streaming video games much like sort of an interactive podcast, more often than not, I don't even pay attention to the game being streamed or the stream more. It's the conversation that's happening that's engaging for me at least.
Yeah, it's like sitting around a TV with your friends. I mean, it's just something to have on in the background.
Bob, let's see you do that.
We have friends? Sorry.
God, Jesus.
It
Steve. What's the matter with you? Oh, my car! My car! Your shirt. Get it?
No, that's Final Fight. This is Street Fighter. There's no my car. You blew it.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
blew it.
All right. Well, this was a lot of fun. I hope we do it, a lot.
Yeah, no, I like the less serious, kind of more freeform once in a while too. It's good.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I hope, we had listen, there's 125 people watching right now.
They all came back just for Bob, I guess. Just to see it.
And that's why we brought Bob back.
Yeah.
Right.
Just for the viewer count.
Yeah.
Yeah. We actually told Bob that if you're not doing the weekly roundups where you can advertise us, then don't even bother to ask to come on our streams. we just want that sweet audience.
They never hesitated to remind me that every single episode that I wasn't on was their highest viewed episode. So yeah.
Well, fortunately, now that Bob's returned, we have been able to maintain, at least him and I personally, this kickback relationship. So it's business as usual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're making a kickback as well. Maybe we should show that one next time.
Oh yeah, I have it right here. I'm keeping it for when you're allegedly coming down here. I'm giving it back to you.
Absolutely. That's can we leave on a teaser? Can we leave on a teaser and then hang up?
Yeah.
Coming soon, the RetroRGB road trip.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, something I've been talking about for years now. So, all right, let's end on that one.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. We will.
Nobody cares.
We'll be seeing you in I don't know. Sometimes it's 2 weeks. Sometimes it's 6 weeks. Who knows?
Oops.
Whoops.
I don't know what's happening.
Alrighty, we'll talk to you guys soon. See ya.
See ya.
All right. Later, guys.
Bye.